over the weekly Torah portion, Parasha Mishpatim. I want to share with you a beautiful idea that I read in this book called Wisdom for Living, based off the teaching of Rav Noach Weinberg. An idea that I feel that if a person doesn't internalize this idea in their Judaism and look at Judaism from this perspective, they could go their entire life and they could keep Shabbat, they could keep kosher, they could keep every single mitzvah, but they missed out on the whole goal of mitzvah, and they missed out on the purpose of life, meaning they missed out on the whole point of what Judaism is all about. Very, very important idea. So let's begin with this. So we know that the Parsha talks about a very important idea. The Jews come to God and they say, Na'aseh v'nishma. What happened? God, He took the Jews out of Egypt, 10 plagues, miracle. He brought them to Mount Sinai. In a national revelation, He gave them the Torah, right? And the Jews, God, before he came to the Jews, He said, okay, before I give you the Torah, right, I got to ask you, because I can't, force upon you responsibility. Do you guys want to accept the Torah? And the Jews, not knowing what's in the Torah, they say, God, Na'aseh v'nishma. Very, very powerful statement. God, although we don't know what's in this book, we will do, and then we will listen. Now, the Gemara, the Talmud, teaches us in Shabbat, page 88a, teaches us, what was going on in the heavens when the Jews responded to that. We gave that beautiful response of Na'aseh v'nishma, we will do, and then we will understand. It says God, the Talmud tells us that God, the oral Torah, that God was so impressed with the Jewish response when they gave that response. That's what God was like, wow, who taught the Jews this secret of Na'aseh v'nishma, that secret statement? Wow, unbelievable response. So the Torah says God was impressed, the oral Torah. Now, there's a Midrash, and the Midrash tells us that, another, backstory of God actually approaching the other nations. So a lot of people say, oh, I don't think it's fair. Why did God only give the Jewish people the Torah? Why didn't He go to all the other nations? That's not fair. Why are only the Jewish people? And the Midrash tells us that God actually did. God, before He went to the Jewish people, He went to them last. He first went to every other nation and He offered them the Torah. So the Midrash is as follows. The Midrash starts with God going to Asav. Asav is, he represents Edom. Edom, represents, kind of today the Roman Empire, whatever. But the idea is He went to the nation of Asav. And He said, Asav, right? And I'll read you the Midrash inside. He says, He asked them, will you accept the Torah? He went to the Asav. He said, will you accept the Torah? And what did Asav say? Asav asked, God, what's written inside of it? And God said, it's written inside of it, you can't murder. What did Asav respond? So they respond. Asav said, listen, God, thank you, but no thank you. That's who we're all about. We are, murderers. That's in our blood. We can't control that. We can't control the fact that we're murderers. That's our nature. That's who we are. God, thank you, but no thank you. So God, okay, he went to the next nation. So Asav rejected the Torah. Then he went to the nation of Ammon and Moab. He said, the nation of Ammon and Moab, do you guys want to accept the Torah? Will you accept my Torah? And they asked, just like Asav did, what's in the Torah? And God said, it says in the Torah, you cannot do sexual immorality. And Ammon and Moab said, whoa, God, thank you, but no thank you. We are Ammon and Moab. Our nation, Moab. What does Moab mean? It means from the father. We are descendants of Lot. And you know the whole story with Lot. Lot was, God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. He took Lot out. He was with his two daughters, right? His two daughters ended up, sleeping with their father. And then they had kids. And that became, that's why it's called Moab. Because she said, my kids are from my father. So they said basically, God, it's in our genes. We are, sexually immoral people. We can't change that. We can't fix that about ourselves. God, thank you, but no thank you. So then God moved on to the next nation. It was Yishmael. Okay? And he goes to Yishmael, and he said, Yishmael, will you guys accept the Torah? And Yishmael said, what's written inside? And God said, it's written inside, you can't be a thief, you can't steal. And Yishmael said, whoa, God, thank you, but no thank you. We are thieves. It says in the Torah that, Ishmael's hands will always, will be against everybody, right? Meaning in a sense, that's their nature. We can't change that. God, thank you, but no thank you. And God left. Now, two questions, very powerful questions on this, piece of oral Torah, on this Midrash. Question number one, what did the nations do wrong? Is it wrong to ask what's inside of it? before you commit your life to something, right? Before someone signs a contract, here, sign this contract. Isn't it not make sense to look inside the contract to see what's inside of it? If some crackhead is coming on the street and he scratching his face and he's walking like this in the street and he says, here, sir, sign this paper. You're like, bro, who the heck are you? And second, what's inside? I'm not signing some random paper, right? When people get the text, oh yeah, if you send, $500, I'll send you $2,000, whatever, something like that, those scams. Like, bro, what's the catch here? It's a little bit sketchy, right? It makes sense before you do something to look into it. So what did the nations do wrong? Why was it a problem? They asked what's written inside. Why is the Midrash, the oral Torah, making it seem like, why is God, and again, the oral Torah stems from God. Why is God making it seem like that was very negative to ask what was written inside? That's question number one. Question number two is once they ask what's written inside, why did God tell them the hardest thing to do? Doesn't make sense. Tell them, if you want someone to come, follow your religion, start with the easy stuff. Especially Judaism. Tell them, yeah, if you come to our religion, the beauty of Shabbat, the beauty of, family, respecting your parents. Tell them the easy mitzvahs, right? And then slowly you can tell them the harder mitzvahs. It's like, you want to hire somebody. Let's say you want to hire a worker. The job you have is a very, very tough job. Most people, when they take this job, they quit. After a week, it's so hard. So you go to the worker. What? Everyone who interviews, you go to them. This job is going to be so hard. You're not going to have time for anything. You're going to be so busy. You're going to work like a slave. They're going to run away. So what do? You tell them, hey, this job is tough, but listen, there's a lot of benefits. There's beauty. There's a lot of perks to it. You start it off easy. And then you say, listen, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be challenging, right? That's how you start. Why all of a sudden the nations ask God, what's written inside? And God tells them the hardest thing for them to keep. How is that fair? How is that fair to them? Tell them that. Why are you telling them the hardest thing? Why are you pinpointing the one thing that's hardest for them? Those are the questions you have in the Midrash. And the answer is beautiful and a very, very important lesson that we can all internalize in our life. The answer is as follows. The problem with asking the question in the first place, what was the problem? Asking the question in the first place. What does that mean, asking the question in the first place? Guys, it wasn't some homeless guy on the street or some sketchy guy asking you to sign a contract. It's God. It's the creator of the universe. God is asking you. He's asking you what's in this book. God is the one offering you this deal. It's not some stranger. It's not some guy out to get you. And the fact you ask that question undermines your understanding of who God is, right? Asking that question, it kind of doubt. You're basically, in a sense, you're doubting and suspecting the creator of the universe. God is an infinite being above space and time. You think he needs anything? If he's giving you this, it's obviously the best deal in the world. It's like, for example, your mother, your brother, or your family, someone you love so much, is telling you, yo, there's a big business opportunity. I'm telling you, take this investment with me. Trust me. Sign this paper and do it. If it's someone you really love and trust, then you'll sign it closing your eyes because you know they don't have intentions against you. Needless to say, if it's the creator of the universe, if God is telling you, hey, there's a book, asking that question from the start is so disrespectful. Why is it disrespectful? I want to know what's in the book, but it's God giving you the book. You're making it seem like, oh, whatever's in the book is going to take away. And that was the problem. The problem is that they asked the question, really, the question of what was written in it wasn't the question of what was written in it. The question was really, God, it's great. It's great. You have a Torah and everything, but does it fit with my lifestyle? Is it comfortable for me? Right? What's written in it, the nations were in effect saying to God, does the Torah fit into their lifestyle? Right? And if it does fit into their lifestyle, if it goes with what we want to do, then we'll accept the Torah. Right? They each had their own set of ethics and principles that they're comfortable with, and they therefore want to see if the Torah fits with their chosen lifestyle. Okay? Meaning, for them, what was more important? It was more important. What's more important? Truth or comfort? For them, we obviously saw from the answer, comfort is more important. And if it's truth and it doesn't go against their comfort, fine, they're in it. But if the truth, whatever the true thing is, goes against their comfort, they're not willing to accept it. Okay? And therefore they want to see if the Torah fits in their lifestyle. And that was the problem. That approach undermines the idea that the Torah is from an infinite and perfect source and can only enhance and not hamper our life. Okay? The non-Jewish nations viewed Hashem's offer with great suspicion and doubt, thinking that some of the mitzvot of the Torah would impede in their pleasures in life. And that's the problem. the question from the start. That's why God looks at it in a negative way, because the question implies that God is out to get them, not giving them the ultimate benefit. Because if you really trust God, right, why would God scam you? Why would God trick you? And that's why God, that answers the question of, we said, why was God so impressed with the Jews? Why did God say, wow, the Jewish people, they say Na'aseh v'nishma, wow, because what's Na'aseh v'nishma? Na'aseh, when God offered them the Torah, instead of the Jews asking what's written inside of it, the Jews said, God, it doesn't matter what's inside of it. It's from you. We'll do it, even if we don't know it. Of course, you want us to understand what the Torah is. Of course, we have to study. We have to know what's inside of it. But we'll understand that later. We're willing to accept the deal and sign the contract because we know it's you, God. We trust you. And that's the idea of Na'aseh v'nishma. Right? That's the idea. That's why God was so impressed with the Jews. He said, wow, the Jews answered Na'aseh v'nishma. They hit the dot. They perfectly got it. Because that was the whole point. The whole point was, right, not to reject it, but the whole point was, do you trust me? Do you trust that I'm here giving it to you? Do you trust I'm the creator of the universe? I'm here to benefit you? And that's where the Jews got it right. And the Jewish people understood that the Torah is only for our good, and that ultimately the only avenue fulfilling our goals and deepest aspirations. Okay? And we understand, what is the Torah at the end of the day? What is the Torah? The word Torah means instruction. It's instructions for life, for marriage, for dating, for happiness, to fulfill your purpose, to have amazing society. Torah is here not to impede our life, not to take away the pleasures. It's for our ultimate benefits from an infinite creator who gave it for us to benefit and live the best life. So asking what's written in it, basically that question is attempting to attempting to evaluate the Torah's worthiness based on preconceived beliefs. Meaning, if it fit, that's why the nations went wrong. Does it fit with my life? Does it fit with my lifestyle? And they undermined the whole point of what the Torah was. Now, the other question was, right? We said the first question is why did they ask? What was the problem with asking what's written in it? Okay, we understand that. But why did God, once He asked what's written in it, why did God all of a sudden tell them the hardest thing for them? Okay, at least tell them something easy. Why do you tell them the hardest thing that you knew basically God told them something that's so hard for them that they basically rejected it on the spot? And obviously God knew that they're going to reject it if He's going to tell them that. And the answer is, based off what we said before, they already rejected the Torah. They didn't reject the Torah because of what was inside of it. Already from the start, because they doubted the Torah, they rejected it. And that was the problem. Okay? To read it inside, in the book, it says that Hashem presented each of the nations with one mitzvah that was most hard for them, to basically help them to fulfill the desire to reject the Torah. They already rejected the Torah. Hashem wasn't doing anything new for them. They already rejected it with what they said. Their very question was the rejection of the Torah. The rest was just a formality and process. Okay, and that's the idea. The idea is the reality of the Torah does not need a stamp of approval. Okay, the Jewish people embrace the Torah because why? They know that if God is giving this to us, it's not an empty and false teaching. It's the greatest thing. So what's the takeaway for us? The takeaway for us is that when we go through life, when God gives us commandments, right? We can look at the Torah with the mindset of, oh, it's a burden. God's out to get us. But you have to understand one thing. If God is giving you this commandment, right? He's not doing it to harm us. He's not doing it because He wants to make life hard. He's doing it for our ultimate good. It's not an empty teaching. It's the greatest thing ever. And, I know a lot of people, they always say, you know what? Shabbat is so limiting for me. I can't go wherever I want. Kosher is so limiting. I want to eat at this place, that place. I can't eat whatever I want, wherever I want, whenever I want. But the idea is that if you're looking at Judaism from that perspective as a burden, then you missed the whole point of Judaism. You missed the point. You took what God gave you, and basically you're doing what the other nations did to God. You're doubting that the Torah is actually here for your ultimate good. You're doubting God. You're suspecting God. Because if God is giving you the Torah, He obviously didn't have bad intent. He obviously gave you something that's going to be the best thing for you. And I'll finish off with a story. There's a boy named Moshe, okay? Moshe grew up completely secular, okay? And, eventually though, when he went to college, he was an atheist and everything. He started looking into Judaism and, he started debating rabbis and going back to his professors, going back and forth, okay? And eventually he realized, what the rabbis had to say about Judaism and proving Judaism was more, in a sense, it was way more, better arguments than what the atheists gave, okay, and his professors. So he ended up believing the Torah, okay? Now he lived in a college where everyone around him is secular. They don't keep Shabbat, kosher, they don't keep anything. And now he said, listen, Judaism is true. And if Judaism is true, I got to keep it, whether I like it or not. And he kept Torah and he kept mitzvot. He kept everything. He tried keeping, whatever. And, and he was miserable doing it. And his friends told him, Moshe, what are you doing? You're miserable. Why are you keeping Torah? Why are you doing all this stuff if you're so miserable doing it? Don't do it. Who's telling you? And Moshe said, listen, if it's true, I got to do it. I got to keep to it. And now eventually one day, Moshe went for Shabbat to somebody's house and he had the third meal of Shabbat, Sudah Shlishit, okay? If you want to say for the Ashkenazim, Shalosh Shudas. And he was eating the meal. And he was basically, he seemed like, he's a burden or whatever. And he was talking to the rabbi. And the rabbi said to him something that changed Moshe's life forever. He said, Moshe, let me ask you something, right? God, right? He's an infinite being. Does it make sense for God to create a world or not create a world? What makes more sense? To create a world or not create it? If you're perfect, does it make sense to, leave the world the same or create a world? And what happened? Moshe said, yeah, it makes sense, for God to not create a world. But he said, Moshe, God did create the world. So if he did create the world, he's an infinite being above space and time. He obviously didn't do it because he needs anything. He's infinite, he's perfect, he doesn't need anything. So if he's telling us to keep Shabbat, keep kosher, keep all the 613 commandments, work on the character traits, study Torah, help other people do all this stuff, right? Basically be an Orthodox Jew. He's not telling you to do that because he wants to make your life hard because he needs anything from it, right? He needs you to serve him or something like that, right? He's an infinite being, he doesn't need you. He's not a homeless on the street that needs charity, God forbid. He's not a cook that, a king that needs someone to cook for him. He's the infinite God, he's above space and time. So if he's telling you to do this, it's for your good, it's for your benefit. So change your mindset, Moshe. Stop looking at it as a burden, but look at it, no, this is for my ultimate good. God's giving to me because this is the best thing. And Moshe got the biggest shock of his life from hearing that. And from that day on, Moshe changed his life, and Moshe actually became a big, big rabbi. And again, the moral of the story is not to become a big rabbi, okay? The moral of the story is that he changed his perspective on Judaism to the point where he embraced it so much that he actually dedicated his life to sharing that idea to everyone around him, right? So that's the idea. The idea is true story. I know Moshe. So the idea is what? The idea is that we got to change our perspective of Judaism. I know I gave a class on this before. Judaism is not a burden. We have to look at it from the opposite. Not only is Judaism not a burden, but it's the greatest thing ever. And if God is giving us the Torah, whatever mitzvah it is, or no matter how hard it seems and how difficult, it's for our ultimate good. If he's giving it, if he's the creator of the universe, it's for the best thing. So let's, Bezrat Hashem, let every single one of us who's listening to this class internalize that idea and Bezrat Hashem use that. And the Torah actually tells us, when you serve God out of happiness, Ivdu Hashem besimcha, right? Maimonides, the Rambam tells us, if we serve God with joy and with happiness, and we contemplate His Torah at all times because the Torah is precious to us. We always want to learn Torah. We always want to be connected to God's Torah and study, and we're doing it with happiness and keeping mitzvot with happiness. Then the Torah, the Maimonides, I think he quotes the oral Torah. The oral Torah promises that God will make sure to take away all the distractions, all the negative things in life, in order for us to enable to get closer to God and build a relationship with better. So Bezrat Hashem, may that blessing apply to all of us. Thank you for listening.